I arrived at the house I grew up in, only to find every single thing I owned packed into trash bags on the curb. No furniture, no pictures on the walls, just black plastic garbage bags stacked like silent accusations. And no one was there to explain why. If you've ever felt completely abandoned by the people who are supposed to love you most, listen closely. Because this isn't just a story about lost things. It's about a family that turned its back on me and how I fought to reclaim my life. I'm Alara. For 4 long years, I poured everything into college. Every late night, every dollar, every ounce of hope. I thought that when I finally came home, everything would be waiting for me like it always used to. Warm, familiar, a place where I belonged. I imagined hugs from my mom, a welcome from my dad's tired smile, laughter in the kitchen, and my little sister jumping out from behind the door with that wild grin she always wore. Instead, I found silence, heavy and thick like a fog that had swallowed the house whole. The street was quiet, too quiet. No cars passing by. No children playing. Just the low hum of distant life that felt like it belonged somewhere else, far away from me. I stood on the cracked sidewalk and stared at the house, the one I grew up in. It looked smaller, somehow. The paint was peeling in places, the garden overgrown and wild like it had been forgotten. The front porch was cluttered with piles of black trash bags, stacked, stuffed, and crammed to the brim. I recognized the shape of my belongings through the thin plastic. Textbooks I had hauled home every summer, my old winter coat folded stiffly inside one of the bags, my favorite sketchbooks, and the box of photographs I had hoped to show my family. My heart hammered in my chest. I stepped closer, the sharp scent of mildew and stale air hitting me as soon as I reached the porch steps. The door, usually bright and welcoming, was cracked open just enough to cast a shadow inside. There was no sound, no creak of the floorboards, no dog barking, no voices calling my name. Nothing. Just emptiness. I called out softly, "Mom? Dad? Is anyone here?" My voice felt foreign, swallowed by the void. Nothing answered. That moment, standing there, I felt a hollow twist in my chest, as if the house itself was mourning something I hadn't yet understood. My hands trembled, and I wanted to run away, to scream, to find a place where I still mattered. But I couldn't. I had to know why. Why had my whole life been packed into trash bags? Why was I left outside this home, a stranger in the place where I was supposed to belong? I tried to remember the last time I spoke with my family. It had been months ago. A phone call filled with silence, half-words, and awkward pauses. I'd thought it was just busy schedules, distance, the usual strain of college life. But now I wondered if that had been the first sign of something breaking, something I didn't see coming. As I reached down to touch one of the bags, my fingers brushing the plastic cold and unyielding, a wave of confusion crashed over me. I was supposed to be home. I was supposed to be safe. But this felt like a betrayal too deep to explain in words. I didn't know then that this was just the beginning of a long, painful unraveling. The house was supposed to be a refuge, a place of memories and comfort. But now it felt like a mausoleum for a past I'd been erased from. I took a deep breath, forcing myself to step inside, even though every instinct screamed at me to run. The door creaked as I pushed it open wider. Dust motes floated in the weak light filtering through the grimy windows. The air was stale, heavy with a silence that pressed against my skin. The walls, once painted a soft cream, were faded and cracked. The floorboards groaned under my weight. Everywhere I looked, I saw evidence of absence. The kitchen table was bare, no plates, no coffee mugs, no reminders of morning conversations. The living room was empty, save for a few scattered magazines and the faint smell of something burnt, like a forgotten dinner left too long on the stove. I could almost hear echoes of laughter, of arguments, of birthdays and holidays that once filled these rooms with life. But now, only silence. I found my way up the narrow staircase, my footsteps tentative, almost afraid to disturb the ghosts of my past. The hallway was dark, the wallpaper peeling like dead skin. At the end, my old bedroom door stood shut, but I could see the faded name tag I'd stuck on it as a child. Alara's room. I pushed the door open. Inside, the room was a shell of what it once was. The bed frame was empty, the mattress gone. Drawers yawned open, their contents missing. The walls were bare. The only thing left was a single black trash bag sitting in the corner. I sank down onto the floor, feeling the cold press through my jeans. I let the tears come, hot and unbidden. Why? Why would they do this to me? I didn't have long to dwell on the pain because the phone in my pocket buzzed. I pulled it out with shaking hands. A message from an unknown number. Don't come back. It's better this way. The words felt like a punch to the gut. I stared at the screen, my mind racing. Who would send such a message? Was it my family? A stranger? Or someone else trying to hurt me? Questions swirled in my head. Was this about something I did? Something I didn't do? Was this all a terrible mistake? Or was it something darker? The house groaned again, as if responding to my despair. I realized then how much I didn't know, how much I needed to find out. This was no longer just about returning home. It was about fighting to reclaim my place in a world that had tried to erase me. As I sat there on the floor of my empty room, I made a decision. I wouldn't leave without answers. I would uncover the truth, no matter how painful. Because even if my life had been thrown into trash bags, I was still here. And I was still fighting. I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't. The floor was hard beneath me. No mattress, no pillow, just a throw blanket from one of the trash bags balled beneath my neck. My body hurt, but the ache in my chest was louder. I stared at the ceiling of my childhood bedroom, trying to convince myself I hadn't imagined it all. But the room was empty. Everything I had once called mine was now in trash bags. My parents were gone, and I had no idea why. Somewhere between midnight and morning, I gave up pretending I'd find peace if I closed my eyes. Instead, I started digging through the bags. I wanted to find, I don't know, a note? An explanation? Something. What I found was worse than silence. At the bottom of the third bag, under a crumpled hoodie, a high school journal, and a half-ripped photo of me and my dad at a science fair, I found a piece of paper folded 3 times. No envelope. No name. But it was meant for me. Alara, by the time you read this, you'll know. I'm sorry. We didn't know how to tell you, and maybe we should have tried harder. But there are things you don't understand yet. Things that go back farther than you realize. This wasn't just about you going away. It was about protecting what's left of us. My heart dropped as I read it again. I wanted to scream. Protecting themselves? From what? From me? What did they think I would do? By the time the sun was up, I was already walking down the street to someone I hoped still remembered me. Mrs. Keeley had lived next door for as long as I could remember. She used to leave banana bread on our porch. She knew the names of every child in the neighborhood and had an opinion about every last one of us. If something happened in this house, or if someone moved out without so much as a goodbye, she'd know. She opened the door like she'd seen a ghost. Alara, she said softly, hand clutched to her chest. I thought you weren't coming back. Why would you think that? I asked, my voice barely steady. What happened? She looked behind her, as if someone might be listening, and then stepped aside. Come in, but just for a minute. The moment I stepped into her kitchen, 1,000 memories washed over me. Cinnamon sugar, polished wood floors, the soft hum of an old radio. But none of it could drown out the dread in my gut. She poured tea into a chipped mug and slid it toward me. Your mother, she sold the house, Alara. About 3 weeks ago. I blinked. She sold it. She nodded. Said it was time to move on. Said you weren't coming back. I tried to swallow the lump rising in my throat. Why would she say that? I talked to her just 3 months ago. I told her when I'd be home. Mrs. Keeley hesitated. There's more, honey. Your father, he's not with your mother anymore. I froze. She didn't tell you? My voice came out hoarse. No. They separated last year. Quietly. After everything that happened. I leaned in. What happened? She looked down at her tea. I don't know all the details. But there was tension. And your name came up more than once. My name. Back on the curb, staring at the empty porch, my phone buzzed. Another blocked number. Another message. Stop asking questions, Alara. You're only going to hurt yourself. I read it twice. The second time, I didn't feel fear. I felt rage. Someone wanted me quiet. They wanted me confused. They wanted me gone. But I wasn't going anywhere. I opened my laptop. I still had access to the same forums and tools I'd used for research all through school. If someone was using a burner app to message me, maybe they'd slipped. Maybe they weren't as careful as they thought. I checked the metadata. An IP address pinged from a school district server. My old high school. That made no sense. Who would message me from there? I dug deeper. The login ID matched a student account, active within the past 2 weeks. Then I saw the name. Junie. My sister. The last time I spoke to Junie was over a year ago. It wasn't a fight, we just stopped calling. I chalked it up to distance. Her being a teenager. Me being busy.
But now?
Now I realized she was avoiding me on purpose. I walked straight into the school the next morning. Everything looked smaller than I remembered. Same wax floors, same trophy case, same flickering exit sign near the nurse's office. But people looked at me differently now. Like I was a story they'd heard but never questioned. I went to the only person I knew who might help, Mr. Paris, the IT coordinator. He looked surprised when I knocked on his office door. Alara, he said. Long time. I need a favor, I said. Someone used a school account to send me threatening messages. I think it came from my sister's login. He raised his eyebrows. That's serious. I'm not trying to get anyone in trouble, I said quickly. I just need to know if it was really her. He hesitated, then turned to his computer. Only for a minute. A few keystrokes later, the truth was staring me in the face. Junie's ID. 4 logins. 1 IP. All connected to that same burner messaging app. Mr. Paris looked up. You okay? I lied.
Yeah.
Thank you. But I wasn't okay. I was wrecked. I found Junie later that day near a little cafe uptown. She was laughing with a friend, wearing headphones and sipping something iced. Her hair was different, longer, dyed at the tips. She looked grown, stronger. I waited until her friend left, then walked up to her. She turned. Her eyes widened. Alara? Her tone was flat. Not shock. Not warmth. Just detachment. I held up my phone. You sent me this. She looked away. You weren't supposed to see it. I stared.
Why?
What did I do to deserve this? She crossed her arms. It's not about what you did. It's about what happened after you left. Tell me, I said. Because no one else will. She took a breath. Dad didn't leave us. He was pushed out. Mom found out he gave you part of the money she'd been saving. For the house. For emergencies. And she lost it. I shook my head. He offered. I didn't take anything without. She said you manipulated him. That you made him choose you over the family. I was going to school. He wanted that for me. Junie's voice cracked. Mom didn't. And there it was. The moment the mask slipped. After he left, everything fell apart, she whispered. The bills. The house. Mom started saying you were the reason he walked away. That you poisoned him against us. That's not true, I said, but it felt like a hollow echo. I know, Junie said. But I was tired of being caught in the middle. So you sent the message, I said. You warned me to stop digging. She didn't deny it. I thought if you stayed away, she said, things would finally go back to normal. A bitter laugh escaped my throat. Do they feel normal now? She looked away. That night, I returned to the only place that still held any part of my truth. The curb outside what used to be home. I sat with the trash bags. My life in plastic. The photo of me and Dad still poking out the side. I had to find him. Because if anyone still remembered the truth, it was him. I dug through my old email. Found a form he once filled out with a return address, a backup mailing location in a small town about an hour away. I packed what little I had, slung on my bag, and walked to the station. I didn't know what I'd find. But I knew this much. I wasn't going to stop until I found out why they threw me away like garbage. And what they were still trying to hide. The bus ride out of town felt like a crossing between worlds. Each mile carried me further from the betrayal I'd stumbled into and closer to the truth I'd been denied. I wasn't just chasing answers anymore. I was chasing the last thread of who I used to be. The girl who once believed her family would always be her foundation, not her undoing. I arrived just after sunset in a town barely marked on the map. Fewer than a dozen streetlights blinked along the road. A diner, a pharmacy, a faded post office with peeling paint. And then, tucked behind a low hill and a row of tired pines, I found the house. It was small, weathered but lived in. A single porch light glowing like a quiet invitation. I stood at the gate for a long time, staring at the outline of the man behind the window. Shoulders hunched, the same way I remembered from when he'd read newspapers in the morning. Except now he looked smaller, grayer, and infinitely further away. I knocked twice. The door opened with a hesitant creak, and there he was. My father. "Ilara," he breathed, as if saying my name was a question. I swallowed the knot in my throat. "Hi, Dad." He didn't move at first, just stared. Then, slowly, he stepped aside. "Come in." The house smelled like coffee and old paper. On the wall hung a photo of me at graduation, creased at the corners but still there. Still up. He hadn't erased me. I sat at the edge of a chair while he poured 2 mugs. Neither of us spoke until he finally set one in front of me and sat across the table. "I heard you were home," he said. I tilted my head. "From who?" "Junie." "Of course." I let silence stretch between us before I asked the question that had burned in my chest for days. "Why did you leave?" His jaw tightened. "Because staying would have destroyed everything." I blinked. "So, instead, you let them destroy me?"
He sighed.
"That wasn't my choice." "But it was," I said, louder than I meant to. "You gave me money to finish college, and then you disappeared. Mom sold the house without telling me. Junie threatened me just for coming back. Everyone is pretending I don't exist." "What happened, Dad?" He looked down at his hands, calloused and shaking slightly. "It started after I helped you," he said quietly. "Your mom found out I used part of the equity line to cover your tuition gap. She lost it. She thought I stole from her," he continued. "She said you manipulated me. Said I'd chosen you over the rest of the family." I clenched my fists. "I never asked you to choose." "I know," he said. "But I did." I stared at him, waiting. "Your mother never forgave me. She said helping you meant I'd turn my back on her and Junie. She gave me an ultimatum, cut off contact with you, or leave the house. I told her I wouldn't pretend you didn't exist. So she pushed me out." "And you didn't fight back?" I asked. He looked away. "I thought if I left, maybe the two of you could repair things. Maybe she'd soften with time." I laughed bitterly. "She didn't. She threw everything I owned into trash bags." His voice cracked. "I didn't know she'd do that. Did you even try to call me?" I whispered. "I did. Dozens of times," he said, reaching into a drawer and pulling out a flip phone. "She blocked my number on your phone. I saved every message I left." He handed me the phone. I scrolled through the voicemails. All from one number. "Ilara, it's me.
Please call me."
I heard what your mother did.
"I'm so sorry."
I'm trying to fix it. If you ever want to talk, I'm still here." I dropped the phone. All this time, I thought he'd chosen to disappear. But he hadn't. He'd been erased. "I need you to tell me everything," I said.
"Not just about Mom."
"About Junie. About what else happened after you left." He rubbed his eyes. "Junie was devastated. But your mother fed her a version of the story where you were the villain. She twisted it, made it sound like you tricked me into ruining our lives. I became a scapegoat," I said. "She kept telling Junie that you abandoned her, that you thought you were too good for us after getting into college." "I worked 2 jobs," I said. "I called home every Sunday, and no one ever picked up." He nodded. "I know that now. But she built her own version of you and fed it to Junie until it became the truth." I sat back, staring at the wall. "So, where are they now?" "They moved to your Aunt Talia's house. Temporary, I think. The sale from our house is supposed to go toward a new place. A spark of anger lit in my chest. My childhood was sold. My memories. For what? He hesitated. There's something else, he said. Your mother, she forged your signature. My blood turned cold.
What?
She signed your name on a withdrawal request for one of your federal disbursements. Said she was handling it on your behalf. I stood up. That's illegal. I know. My hands trembled. Do you have proof? He nodded, slowly opening a file cabinet. Inside was a photocopy of the forged form, my name scrawled in handwriting that didn't quite match mine. She used your student login and reset your password, he said. Junie helped her. I couldn't speak. I'd worked every summer, sacrificed everything, and she'd stolen from me anyway. I looked at my father. Why didn't you report it? Because I knew it would tear Junie apart. She was 17. She didn't know better. She knew enough to lie, I said, and threaten me. Later that night, I couldn't sleep again. Not because I was scared, because I was ready. I opened my laptop and filed a fraud report with my financial aid office. I submitted the proof. I wrote a statement, and I attached every voicemail my father had saved. Every forged document. Every piece. By morning, they replied. They were launching an investigation. It took a week for the fallout to begin. My mother was flagged by the Department of Education. She lost access to any account tied to mine. A hold was placed on the home sale, and Junie was questioned by a school officer after the threat messages were traced. The messages she deleted? I recovered them from backup logs. The lie they built? It was unraveling. I didn't relish it. I didn't smile, but I didn't cry either. 3 days later, I got a letter, handwritten, from Junie. I didn't know she'd go that far. I thought I was protecting us. But now I realize she used me. Just like she used you. I'm sorry, Alara. You didn't deserve any of this. I don't know if you'll ever want to see me again, but I'll wait. I folded the letter. Set it aside. I wasn't ready to forgive her. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But at least I wasn't invisible anymore. I stood outside the family home one last time a week later. The porch was quiet. The lock had been changed. A pending legal review sign now taped to the door. I walked to the edge of the yard, the place where my life had once been reduced to garbage bags. And I placed something on the grass. Not a threat. Not a message. Just a photo. The one of me and my dad at the science fair, flattened and taped back together. I wanted them to remember. I wanted me to remember that even when they tried to erase me, I had never truly disappeared. I moved in with my dad for a while after that. It wasn't perfect. We were both healing, both learning to live with the wreckage they'd left behind. But we started small. Coffee in the mornings, walks in the evening. He even came with me to my graduation. And when I walked across that stage, I didn't look for my mother in the crowd. I didn't need her there. I'd survived without her. I'd rebuilt from trash bags and silence. And I knew who I was, even if they never did. I used to believe that family was a fixed thing, a permanent shape in the world like a house or a name, something you could return to no matter how far you strayed. But now I know better. Family can betray you in silence. It can pack your whole life into plastic bags and leave no note, no explanation, just absence. And if you're not careful, that absence can crawl inside you, too. For a long time, I blamed myself. I thought maybe I'd missed something. Maybe I'd changed too much. Maybe if I'd called more, visited more, swallowed more of my pride, things would have turned out differently. But the truth is, love shouldn't come with a ledger. It shouldn't be held hostage. And it shouldn't be used as a weapon to erase someone you once called your own. I'm not the same girl who left for college all those years ago. She was hopeful, naive, willing to believe the best in everyone, especially the people who shared her blood. I still believe in hope. But now it's earned. Now it's quieter, stronger. It doesn't beg to be accepted. It simply is. Because I've learned that the people who truly love you don't disappear when things get hard. They don't ghost you when you outgrow them. And they don't make you choose between your future and your place at the table. They sit beside you in the wreckage. They pick up the pieces. And they say, "We'll make something better." My father and I were still building. Some days are awkward. Some are raw, but they're ours. And I'd rather have an imperfect truth than a perfect lie. So, if you're listening to this, and you've ever been betrayed by the people you love most, if your whole past was discarded like trash, and you're standing in the ruins wondering what comes next, let me say this clearly. You are not disposable. You are not the problem. And you are not alone. Your story doesn't end at the curb. Sometimes, that's where it begins. Have you ever had to walk away from someone who is supposed to love you unconditionally? Would you have forgiven them or walked away like I did? Let me know in the comments. I'll be reading every story. Because no one deserves to be silenced. Not anymore.